Let your curiosity rise.
Madbricks webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Madbricks webcast, where the human spirit flies.
Hey, welcome to the Medbix webcast. I think the sun is coming in. Until today, I think summer started already. I think. So let me close that deal. I think we can see me better. Hold on 1 second, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't have this problem before. We don't have this problem before. Sorry about that. This is Ramana Namaraju. I'm the host of the Medbix webcast. I've been doing this one. This is a great journey that I have. My regular co-host Susan Davies could not able to join. She's exhausted with the airports, so she's taking a beauty rest. But I got two wonderful women joining with me today. One of them is my longtime friend, and she's hanging around with me in Silicon Valley, and she moved to Florida. I don't know why, but let me bring her Naseem. I don't know. I don't want to say she is originally from Iran. Let us talk about some of the issue, not political issues, but make sure that their family is safe or not. Welcome, Naseem.
Hello, dear Ramana. It's a pleasure to be here, and hello, everybody.
We miss you, Naseem, here in Silicon Valley.
I miss you a lot. I miss San Francisco, but I cannot complain. Everything in Fort Lauderdale is phenomenal. So
I miss, I used to hang around with you in Silicon Valley, everywhere, all the functions. Now, I don't go to that much function. I'm kind of far. Once in a while I go. So Naseem, tell me about what's going on in your life. And, you're the one person who physically met Sam Altman and questioned him, right? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah.
First of all, before I start, hold on. Sure. Let me ask you, you're originally from Iran. Your parents and family are all safe, right?
They are. And both mom and dad, they're safe. We talk to each other, and we hope that Iran be calm and free again. I came here to further my studies and collaboration regarding sleep apnea and actually breathing during sleep, which as an orthodontist, I can collaborate with my mentor, who is a phenomenal sleep surgeon and ENT surgeon simultaneously. But of course, my love for AI, and it's ongoing, and I'm pursuing very closely everything going on with the company OpenAI. And I actually visited the headquarters back in January in San Francisco, and I continue to learn from them and also expand my, being with their tools specifically.
Very good. One of those, Naseem, definitely it is wonderful to, to spend time with you. And I learned quite a bit from you, traveling around and then all those things. And then you are one of the persons not hesitating to dive into the AI. But now another person who came from a physician, she's a physician assistant, and did not hesitate to jump into the world of AI. Her name is from my back home, from my country. Her name is Dipu Patel. Dipu Patel is welcome, Dipu.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Dipu Patel. Welcome to the Medbix webcast.
Thank you, Ramana. Nice to meet you, Dr. Naseem. Thank you for having me.
Your background is very intriguing. You went through different paths. One of them is that you just tell me your background, how you started as a medical in the field of medicine to all the way to the AI. Your journey, just briefly, if you can give us.
So I started as a PA. I'm still a PA, not started as a PA. I'm still a PA. I went to PA school about 26 years ago. I practiced clinically in emergency medicine and urgent care, and then in oncology. I got drawn into academia for a short period of time before I was recruited to a healthcare tech startup, and that's kind of where the tech bug kind of got started for me. And when AI kind of came onto the onto the into the industry, just became something that I started really reading about, enjoying, and yeah, it's the rest, I guess, is history. I am back in academia now. I'm currently vice chair for innovation at the University of Pittsburgh and professor there. I teach quality improvement. I teach AI and digital health, and kind of spearhead several projects at the school in the AI space with multiple departments.
You know, University of Pittsburgh is very famous for one doctor, very made it India on the map. Dr. Reddy, he was a very famous in robotics. He put the
Yes.
map on the. So I met him one time, and a long time ago. So it is a robotics world. He started it. He wrote a book, first book on the robotics. Actually, he
Oh,
was
I
one of
didn't
the
know
first
that.
few
Cool.
authors of the book on the robotics book in the computer science department. So Dipo, just let me ask you, what is your take on AI? So, how does it help the medicine? Tell me first. What do you think where it helps exactly?
So several areas. I think we need to. The first part is right now we're nowhere near where AI is going to help. I think healthcare or clinical practice the way we think it's going to help. I think right now we're very much in the experimental phases of what actually is happening. But I think things like really looking at how and where care is delivered or needed to be delivered. One of the things that I foresee happening in the next few years, decade or so, is really not removing, I guess, moving care from the four walls of a clinic to the patient's home. So imagine that full circle moment of back in the day when the doctor used to come to your home and home visits were very normal when you got sick. I think a very similar thing is going to happen with the technology that we have with AI kind of expanding access into the homes. Except now the doctor or the healthcare provider will come through your screen, your TV, most likely. So, so that's one area. I also think that it's going to change how the whole healthcare delivery models that we have. I think the models we have here in the I speak for the U.S. All the countries have their own systems of healthcare delivery. I do think that the healthcare delivery model is going to change. I don't know what it's going to change, and but I do know it's going to be a lot of growing pains. So
Yeah.
it'll be really different than what it looks like. I also think we're going to measure what care looks and feels like very differently. Right now, we measure care based on RVUs and Press Ganey scores and very basic outcomes. I think that is also going to change. So lots, and I know there's a lot of little slices in each of those things that I mentioned.
Dipo, one of the things that I hear in so many physicians I talk every day, and one of them, one of the main concern of them is that AI is going to replace them. Their jobs will be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
All part is true, and I did actually programming on black boxes and all those things. It's impossible to. So yeah, I want to take your take on it. What do you think of this fear of the AI replacing doctors?
So I actually don't think that's true for a couple of reasons. One, medicine to me, I think, just from a human perspective, it's a very human forward
Yeah.
industry and a very human forward profession. So if we do have AI and robots kind of replace our care, that's on us as human beings. That we as a culture and a society are allowing the the technology to kind of take over the care. So I just don't think that that's going to be the reality of where we sit. Now, I will say the way we currently practice medicine is going to be vastly different than what we see. So some of the things that we do very naturally and we teach students right now to do that. You must do this, you must do that. I think those things will change. And those will be supported by various tools and technologies. But I think I think the practice of medicine will look different. I just don't think it's going to be completely replaced by technological tools.
One of the things that my main concern about that replacing the physicians itself is a human. The healthcare is human centric, as you said. The other part is that there is a structural barriers there in the AI. It is not. We do not know the inside mechanisms how it produces, but that is a different issue. But that technically may not be solvable. That is technically some extent certain thing can be solvable, but
Yeah.
actually the structural problem. Now, let me say, what is if you are a physician, you're a physician assistant, but if you are a physician, what would advice you give them how to be ready for the AI area? What classes? Everybody is rushing towards taking the Stanford healthcare system, Harvard
Yes.
healthcare system. They're taking all kinds of healthcare. They're running around all over the place. I didn't see much difference what their thinking is, but tell me anything that I'm missing here.
No, I don't think you're missing anything. I think, the classes are great if that's something, if that's how you learn and that's what you feel like you need. I think there's enough resources out there for everyone to teach themselves. I would consider myself self-taught in this space, even though I've taken a handful of courses and developed courses myself. But I think the what you need is the thing that I think all of us have in medicine, which is curiosity about the subject and understand some of the foundations of how these models are built so that when in clinical practice you are asked to use a particular tool or an algorithm to make clinical decisions, you know what questions to ask. And that to me, I think are things that come very naturally to healthcare providers, right? What's the next question? What's the deeper question? And I think if you can just be prepared enough to ask the questions in a manner that allow you to feel comfortable and trust the tool that you're being asked to use, it'll go a long way in actually strengthening your own confidence in the usage of these tools. And I will say that I come from that space where I don't have all the answers. And sometimes I don't have all the questions that I need to ask, but every day I'm learning something new that I didn't know. And then I have to kind of, put it in my parking lot or my laundry list of things that I need to look up and learn to a certain degree. But I think the curiosity is going to be really important. I often will tell folks, like, you need to kind of almost be a student again, which is sometimes traumatizing to folks who are in healthcare. You don't want to go back to school, but being a student of AI, which I see myself as, is a really beneficial lens to look at, because we're never going to have all the answers. It's just to me, I see it as what all of medicine is, which is a lifelong journey of learning and curiosity.
You know that one of the times I was interacting with the chat GPT, it said that it's not important that I know everything, but the most importantly, you asking the right questions is more
Correct.
important than I know all the answers.
Yeah,
That is
and I
what
mean,
we
these
need.
models will provide you answers, but you can provide the judgment and the context in which it applies. And so I think that's a more human element of what we're doing.
As Nazim, you have a question? Go ahead.
I do. So my question is that if a clinician wants to become meaningfully AI ready in this time and age that we're talking, like another like in 3 months, I'm a clinician. I want to be AI ready, and I'm in I'm in a private practice. I'm not really. I mean, I'm telling about that example
Yeah.
because I know that certain universities and hospitals, they are forming their own AI tools, or they
Mhm.
are inheriting, like collaborating with big companies. Do you have any suggestions for someone who wants to be a little bit more AI native and AI ready for uh, a clinician or a
Yeah.
physician?
I think that last point where you said, if your organization is kind of rolling out various tools, um, asking to be on the committee that is vetting that tool, asking to be on committees that are forming or creating algorithms internally, to your point, like a lot of organizations are creating, using their own data to create all these algorithms, bringing you that clinical lens or whatever lens, right? Like you may be an engineer, or that you may be interested. Bringing that, I do think it's very important to bring that clinical lens to that conversation. So to be AI ready means like you have to kind of throw yourself into the work a little bit and say, and because to me that's where you're going to learn the viewpoint of the engineer, of the computer scientist, of the data analyst, of the financial officer, of the, you're going to get to see the issue from multiple lenses, which will then ultimately at least give you a good foundational understanding of how decisions are made, how these things are built, what questions are asked from different perspectives. And we know that medicine is a multidisciplinary practice, and how to kind of ask those good questions with better intentionality. Because at the end of the day, every committee that is there making these decisions on what to bring forward to a patient facing kind of tool or algorithm, patient is at the center of it. And who knows that better than every clinician at the table? So I would say kind of put your, raise your hand to be on those committees and be part of the process, which to me I think is the best way to learn. And then be part of that pilot process. I know it's become a little bit of a very triggering word in a lot of organizations, piloting things, but if you are part of the pilot, who better to have a vested interest and use it and say, you know what, this is not a good product. I don't think we should implement it. And here's why. And I think a lot of clinicians forget how much value their voice has in these spaces, because you were the ones on the front lines making decisions with these tools for patients and with patients. So at the end of the day, if you don't use it, it's not good ROI for the organization.
The question is, you said that it's questions. It's a polymathic background. I'm always proponent of polymaths,
Yeah.
asking, understanding different subjects,
Yeah.
because always the medical education is a big, in my view, is a fraud. They're teaching that my father's time and your parents' time or something like that
Yeah.
is a clinical judgments rather than understanding, using the tools more skillfully. So
Mhm.
I think, in the new era of the physician education, we need a multi like a mathematics and physics, that which I propose all the times, and physics, chemistry, biology, arts, philosophy, all of them
Yeah.
need to be learned a little bit of exposure to those areas. Are critical is not when you're saying that multiple fields you need to have exposure.
Yeah, I think by that I mean more along the lines of it's important to understand. I'll give you an example. When I worked at the tech startup, I had it was a startup environment. You wore multiple hats. I was the clinical person on the team, but I had to meet regularly with engineering and research and product and all of these other. And they spoke initially when I first started. I felt like they spoke really different languages than what I was used to speaking, right? But then the more you interact with them, they just have a different vocabulary than we do in medicine or in any other profession. They're all saying the same thing. Patient safety is patient safety. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from it from a product lens or an engineering lens or a clinical lens. At the end of the day, so I had to learn to speak their language a little bit, and they had to learn to speak mine. And so yes, the polymath part of it, like the foundational, the physics and all of that, yes, I agree. And if that's your jam, that is absolutely. I am not a coder. I don't know how to code. But you know what, if someone come to me and say, I coded it this way and blah 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 blah, at least I could have a conversation with them and say, from my lens, I really wanted to do this. How would you go about doing that? And that opens the door for a multidisciplinary, open-minded, and curious conversation, rather than saying, oh, the engineer didn't do what we wanted them to do. They didn't code it correctly. And so I think it's
Respectable.
just approach, right? Am I right, Ramaya?
Respectfully disagree with you a little bit. I live in Silicon Valley. I don't think patient safety comes. These are 20-year-old. They don't even understand what the health problems are. So this is 20 to 25-year-old kids running around. Even Nazim can tell she lived in both worlds. Senior world right now, and then the youngest world in Silicon Valley. I think safety is one of the things is still concern me that they don't understand that level of safety, that human judgmental safety that is a requirement. That is my concern.
You mean the engineers, Ramana?
Engineer, yeah, the
Well,
coders,
then I go back to my original point, which is that makes the clinicians at the table even more important.
even more precise. Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you, the what if you said that what is the AI ready? What do you think the healthcare system is broken, Dipu? You know that it's really we are going. Doctors are not happy, patients are not happy. The hospitals, I tell them they're going bankrupt. All these systems are failing. Where is the think that AI can help or AI can, yeah, AI is a technology force multiplier. It can amplify bad and also amplify good. So what do you think AI can do in these situations? Then I will go back to the Nazim. Yeah,
So
go ahead.
yeah, so there are a few things. Oh, you're right. I think it's definitely broken. The system is broken. Right now, I don't think it works for patients. I don't think it works for clinicians. I don't think it works for the health systems. I think across the board, I think it's really, and that's why what I was saying earlier, I think the whole health system is going to completely change in the next 10 years because of some of these tools. I think what these AI tools are going to help us do is really just break it all apart and start building from scratch. But that means that we need to have really strong governance models. We need to have transparency. We need to have explainable AI. We need education around it. We need, oversight. We need very clear boundaries around this. And we are so early in this process, right? From a use perspective, we're 5 years in. Even though AI has been around for a really long time, at this scale, it's only been around for 5 years. So we're very, very early in this process. So how do you fix a system that is so ingrained for well over a decade? We didn't start here, by the way, right? In the US, all right, I mean, the fact that for the longest time, as I said earlier, the doctors came to us as patients for the longest time. It wasn't until I think the 20s or so, 20s and 30s, did we start going to hospitals and doctors as patients. And so I think that evolution is going to start happening more and more as, by the way, adoption increases. And I think this is going to be pushed by patients, to be honest, because I think patients are going to demand that I don't need to come in for my blood pressure check in 2 weeks. Why can't I just send it to you and you tell me what to do? It saves money for parking. It saves climate impact from driving to and from. It saves so much time and money and effort. And so I think I don't have a full answer of how this is going to change, but I do know it is going to change, and it is going to be a really big shift from the way we practice. And I, for one, when I'm a cranky old lady, would really want it to be better because I don't want to drive to get my blood pressure checked for a 20-minute visit, $20 for parking.
So Nazim, tell me what is bothers you in the healthcare?
Well, for me, and so in dental ward, we are, we are dentists, and then we go specialize in each disciplines. I myself, I'm an orthodontist, and we try to really, stay focused into our own disciplines. For example, me as an orthodontist, and really, I actually forgot how to, for example, prepare a crown or how to really read about, periodontics. I really learned, and they pushed me, so I had to study 6 more years to for my ortho. So all the disciplines, they're working in silos, And I think, and this is the quote from my mentor that, he says that innovation comes out of integration. So it's like back in old days, like those doctors and 100 years ago, they were real doctors. They know everything. They used to know everything about the body and mind and the health and everything. And I do believe with the help of AI, we can, as you also mentioned, Dr. Patel, we can integrate, multiple disciplines together. And I think that's the way that, it's a good thing that we can, with the use of AI, with integration of multiple disciplines, we can see the whole picture. And also, as again, we mentioned, ask better question, the question that we forgot to ask, to be honest. And there are a lot, because especially as I said, in dental world, we are so focused. Like I, as an orthodontist, I'm so focused on tilting one tooth like 1 degree, or mesial or distal, but I forget the bigger problem of the patient. So maybe this is something that we can look forward to. And I personally, I also, with even simple tools that they gave everybody in the world, like ChatGPT, I actually could learn more about other stuff. So we have a lot more work to do, to be honest, I think.
We do. And in
What are
fact,
your thoughts?
yeah, we haven't even started, I think. I really feel we're at the very early stages, of it. And you're right. I think to kind of go back to what your mentor said about those were the real doctors back then. But you also have to keep in excuse me, keep in mind that they didn't have the depth and breadth of knowledge that we have today, right? Back then, most people lived until they're 40, 50 if you were lucky. Excuse me. Um, so the amount of knowledge that they had to know. It's not that it wasn't a lot. Of course, it was a lot, but you try putting that doctor in today's world. It's a completely different
Take
level
some
of.
water. If you
Yeah.
want to take some water, that's okay.
Sorry.
Mm.
I'm nursing a cold. I apologize. So, anyway, so the amount of knowledge that we have to know. In fact, I was actually on Sunday. I was speaking at a conference, and someone asked, like, "Oh, so if you have, those VR goggles that tell you where to put the leads and all of that, what happens if the VR goggles aren't working?
Mhm.
And then what?" And I'm like, "Well, you still have to know. It doesn't negate you not knowing. It just makes it a little bit easier so that you can then move on to the next step if there's an
Mhm.
emergency going." And the example I gave was when I went to school, we had to memorize all of our ACLS, BLS, ATLS algorithms. We had to memorize the doses, the every single one, right? Now and then 10 years later, now they have the cards on every crash cart. So you can just pull up it's VTAC. Okay, here we go. The visual aids were then provided and have become the norm. That doesn't negate us teaching the students that you should know what to do when there's VTAC or VFib on the monitor. I want you to know it, but in case you don't know it, here is the visual aid for you to quickly look it up. So both things can be true at the same time, and I think that's the case with this technology. The 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 rate limiting step here is the trust piece, which we are still developing with this technology. And one of the things that I like to say is that change happens at the speed of trust. So once we start trusting these tools, and the way we can start trusting them is by using them and asking the questions, and bumping up against the failures and what it did wrong and what it did right, um, and then moving forward with those. That's how we're going to really adopt them and use them to what they're really meant for.
A lot of people are rushing towards the implementing AI nowadays. Everybody was rushing. There's so much noise and sales talks everywhere. One thing I noticed is that is, for example, before I was part of the electronic medical records revolution one
Yeah.
time. Everybody said that it's going to solve all the problems. Only thing it increases is the burden on the doctors, a lot of a
Yes.
documentation burden on them. So in the AI, they say that you can summarize the 20 years of a patient data into 2 pages for the doctor, and it's going to be so easy. But verification of the your shift then is a responsibility is falling on the doctor. He has to verify and then
Yeah.
make sure that the data is correct. So you're increasing the cognitive load on the doctor. So you're shifting from one problem, one entropy of the system, to the other side of the problem. You're not solving the problem. So you got to be very careful. I'm developing actually a platform regarding that, where exactly it fits in, where exactly it brings in order and efficiency, where you're not shifting to different place, shifting to the universe rather than shifting the problem, the disorder to the universe rather than to the system itself. This
Mhm.
has to be one of the AI's bigger problem. What do you think in that, where and when AI is going to be efficient, how you are going to be, where you are going to be implementing it? Isn't it important that is to understand these things before people rush into implement AI?
Yeah, yes. I mean, that's a simple, very easy yes to say. I think the thing that you're
Not
pointing.
a lot of people don't think that is easy, but let's implement it.
Well,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Well, I'm going to disagree with all of them, but so I think what you're pointing out, which is true, right? Like the whole thing right now, we're saying, oh, ambient scribing, it's going to, decrease the load, documentation load. Well, you're right. What it's doing is shifting the editing load for clinicians, and so we have to figure out what that balance is. And to your example of, information, it's we don't need more information. We need the right information for
Correct.
that patient in the right time and the right context and the right moment. And so it's not that I need you to summarize 20 years worth of data. Fine if you can do that, but does that 20 years of data help me in the context of this patient's visit today for what I'm
Well,
seeing him or her for? And that's the difference. And I don't think we've quite gotten there yet because again, I think we're still building. I think we're still, and I will often say this to people: bigger is not always better, especially when it comes to large language models. Some it just depends on what your goal is, and I do think these larger EHRs who are now starting to experiment with AI, summarization and whatnot. Um, I think it's going to behoove the clinician, and this is one of the examples of how our work is going to change, right? It's not going to replace us, but our work is going to change. Like asking the question, I have this patient for example, I have a patient with, constipation, for example, and how many episodes of constipation has this patient had? And you have a chart, and he's 60 years old, and you've had, um, you know, but also be saying, okay, the patient has had 17 episodes of constipation or chronic constipation over the last 60 years or 50 years or whatever. But then the power of AI is that also then picking up, by the way, constipation along with cough, which this patient has also had X number of bronchitises or cough episodes. Both of those paired together increase your patient's risk of being diagnosed with Parkinson's in 10 years.
hmm.
That's that's right information, right context of something that like he's here for constipation. Yes, I need to fix that, but what else do I need to look for? And so that's the power of it. And by the way, that Parkinson's chronic the cough and constipation thing, that's an algorithm that has been built and has proven to pick up Parkinsonian symptoms 10 years before onset.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what you're saying is the right information at the right time. That's a very powerful.
Yes.
Sometimes after a certain point, information become a noise, right? It's adding,
You need
keep
to
on
make a
adding
decision.
the noise, and they add a burden of. as a fatigue for the physicians. You get alerts all the times. You get the fatigue all the times. So I've been dealing with the doctors, all kinds of things I've seen in the situations. That's beautifully said. That as well said. That I like that information, the quantifiable information that can be useful in the future. But let me tell you that Medbig style. I'm going to present a topic on it. After that, I come back and I'll ask you what kind of courses you teach, and then
Yeah.
what are the things that we can learn online from you. Probably we
Okay.
can all can take it. So let me present a topic on interesting topic. I'm a physicist and I'm going to do physics stuff. So y'all can watch. You can jump in anytime if you want to jump in. There is no problem. Even you can ask me any questions. Arthur Clarke is a American science fiction writer who wrote two very popular books, very runaway novels. He wrote a science fiction writer. He wrote one of the book is called Rendezvous with Rama. Rama is a Hindu king. Is from the epic Ramayana, um, the epic Ramayana. And then he wrote another book. It's 2001 Space Odyssey. He wrote that he used a computer name called Chandra. Chandra is the name of the astrophysicist from University of Chicago, originally from India, that Chandrasekhar Subramaniam. So he was very fascinated about India and all those things. He writes one of the quotes, famous quotes. He writes, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." It says that's so true in this case. I'm going to tell you what is that magic is. This magic is called quantum entanglement. We consider as a magic is really physics. The two photons emanated from the same source, same crystal, can go apart billions of miles, but they still exert influence on each other. If one photon is a spin up, the other photon, when you observe, actually both photons are a superposition, which means the left side photon is both spin up and down. The right side photon both spin and up and down. The superposition. Once you observe one of the photons, it becomes either up or down without any your input. No choice. You cannot put a choice there. It makes its own choice. Nature makes a choice, either up or down. When it becomes one of the choices made, the complementary choice was made in the other photon. That is a quantum entanglement. Correlation persists even they are a billion miles away. This is a puzzling for Albert Einstein. He called it as two things like two twin sisters affecting each other. They know each other problems. He called it as a spooky action at distance. Albert Einstein called it feels like a magic, but is a proven beyond in experimental way, proven beyond the doubt. It is a quantum entanglement is real. They influence each other irrespective of the distance. So that is a quantum entanglement. So in the end, I'm taking you to more bizarre side of the quantum entanglement, more magical. It is the quantum ghost imaging it's called. Quantum ghost imaging is seeing without seeing. That's a very strange word, but that's what I'm going to explain to you. Seeing without a direct observation. Here is a woman, the plant on the right side, you shed just simple light. You put on the one light you take the light and then split them into two. One light goes to the one plant, real plant, and the left side light produces on the computer the exact image of that plant in a three-dimensional form. How is it possible? Just the light. You sending a light, a correlated light, a quantum entangled light. You sending it out and then producing. They're talking each other. A secret information smuggling there. Kind of a information going from one place to other place without our knowledge, with no known communication there. That is a quantum ghost imaging. So how can you apply in the medicine disease? What they're planning to do but before that, sorghum plant. This is Dipu may know, and even Nazim may know. But sorghum is there's a sorghum they use for the rotis. Indian rotis they use it everywhere. I think I don't know much about it, but I eat. So Department of Energy they did a experiment. They did actually reproduces the image without looking at it. You're looking at the light that going there. So you don't look at the image, you look at the, without looking at the image, you reproduces the image. It's nothing but a magical in that sense. So there's a Department of Energy did. How do you produce a correlated photons? How do you produce entangled photons? A lot of people ask me the question. You take a crystal, a nonlinear crystal, any SPDC crystal, you put a high energy photons, a lot of electromagnetic waves, you bombard them, and then they split into two waves. One is a Baker wave, or sometimes it's a photon A, photon B, it splits into two. They are correlated. If they came from the same source, they're correlated. That is a correlation, basically. Correlated means they influence each other even if we're a billion miles away from each other. Photon A could be on the planet Earth. Photon B could be in the Alpha Centauri. Then they still affect each other instantly without any known communication. That is a quantum entanglement. So that is the strangest thing we could use in the medical imaging. How could you use that? Ghost X-rays, for example, you can use that ghost X-ray. You can take a correlated two rays, laser beams or light in general. You can send one photon ray, one photon beam is called a signal beam, very low intensity, very longer wavelength, it has no 1% basically. Then you entangle with other photon. Both are photons are entangled. So one photon goes to the body, very weak photon. It's no radiation, absolutely zero radiation. They actually can state that is a zero radiation basically. Then other photon, because entangled with other photon, the photon A, photon B, you can multiply, you can use all the forces, all the amplify, everything there in the photon B. You can torture the photon B any way you wanted it. So if you can magnify a million times, you can see better X-ray. Photon A produces a weak X-ray. Photon B can produce a tremendous X-ray without going through a body. The photon B never goes through a body. It produces a better image than a photon A. Because of the quantum entanglement, these two are quantumly entangled. That is the medical imaging. The architecture is based on quantum. This is a single photon avalanche diode. This is a SPAD sensor. SPAD sensors what is single photon avalanche diode means when a photon hits the screen of the this sensor, it produces avalanche of is a cascade of electrons. It produces electrons or current, right? It produces a current, and then they use these sensors, SPAD sensors, in the next generation camera called NCAM. They use that and produce the image, X-ray image. So you can have a camera kind of thing, camera size. You can produce X-ray images, excellent in the future at least.
Oh man, we lost your audio. We can't hear you.
You got muted suddenly.
Oh.
We cannot hear. I think Ramana is going to come back.
Yeah, he'll come back. Yeah. Well, this is very interesting.
Isn't it interesting? I was simultaneously asking ChatGPT too.
Can you hear me
Ramana?
now?
Yes,
Very
yes.
good. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know whether I said that. You know how the ghost X-ray works there?
Yeah,
Ghost
we saw
X-ray-
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were on the right slide. The next one.
next one. Okay.
Yeah. That
That
one.
is that sensor, the black one up there if you have an iPhone, you can look at it actually in the back side. There's a small black button there that is C on the right side, right there. This is a SPAD sensor. SPAD sensor is that it actually, when you take a portrait mode, it produces a micro burst of infrared waves. and then it tells you, it measures the depth of your face. For example, it hits the forefront, forehead, and then it hits the chin, my chin. It can then they go back. They can tell the difference between that timing. It can 1 trillionth of a second. It can measure the difference. That camera, that sensor there, right there in the iPhone. If you have iPhone 12 and up, you can see that sensor. Third one. That is a SPAD sensor. So that sensor is a SPAD sensor is now the photos are optics and sensors and lidar light detection and arrangement, that's the called. That is it lidar plus AI and software. We produce the images through all those combination. Producing images is a very complex one. It does that. We use a quantum physics quite a bit actually. That the lidar uses the lidar technology. They use the SPAD sensor produces this depth perception. That is what it is. Is a depth perception you want, you use that sensor. Automatically it uses, you don't have to say that, but when you do portrait mode, it does use the infrared camera. So we have it already there. So eventually, what is the goal? The goal is you can produce through QGI, quantum ghost imaging, you can produce three-dimensional real-time, three-dimensional heart, three-dimensional brain. You can produce both of them in a exquisite details. That is the power of that system is going to be. But this is the immediate future, not that far, maybe 5-10 years from now. You can get a phone with the quantum sensors. This is a SPAD sensors coming there, already there. The use of two photons, one photon, quantum entangled photons, one goes to the skin, the other goes into the weak photon goes into the skin, and the other photon stays in the phone and measures the amplifications and all those things it does, and can detect a melanoma, for example. So this is going to be the future of quantum physics is coming to the doctor's offices. Is it not far? AI is a software side, is we are doing the leaps and bounds, but there is another side, a quantum side is coming to. Actually, I'm a mentor for the San Diego State University quantum sensors. I'm a mentor for them. I'm selected. There's a good news today, but I don't want to mention today. But I was a mentor for the quantum sensors for the San Diego State University. Thank you for all of the team there. But that is the future of the devices wise. It is coming, a new technology, new quantum physics is coming to the doctor's offices. So that magic was one. That's really a physics. They send the images for 750 miles without. They send the quantum entangled photons 750 miles because very sensitive. Quantum entanglement is these two photons. We expose it with maintaining that coherence is a very sensitive issue. So they maintain at 750 miles. They send to other continent. So that's why they won the Elian aspect of France, and John Clauser of Silicon Valley here, Anton Zeilinger of Austria won the Nobel Prize in 2022 for the quantum entanglement. So the nature is coming to help us to medical imaging. And welcome, thank you for your help. Let us see people like Dipu can do the leaps and bounds to the next AI world. Okay, let me bring them to the table. So, what do you think, Dipu?
So mind blown, because obviously I'm not a physicist, let alone a quantum physicist. But
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, someday we will have all the tools to do an entire patient encounter on our phones. Because we already now have, I haven't talked about it. We have AI stethoscopes that patients can buy and have in their home and beam their heartbeats and lung sounds to us through EHRs. And heck, if we can do x-rays at home, that would be, again, my vision of not needing to go to a clinic and having you seen in the comfort of your own home is more of a reality with that. So that's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Nazim, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was also, I took notes to go and study further because just we were talking with, again, my mentor about like he does, nasal pharyngoscopy and, we were talking about some because we in the mouth we do like for Invisalign we do scans and then we were thinking about that, so I really am grateful to listen to you, and I'm gonna go dig more and come back with questions actually.
I mean, I will say to my own thing, I'm now more curious about how this is going to happen. So and now I need to look at my phone a little bit more closely. Like what's going on?
A lot of people don't know this. There's a
I did
LiDAR.
not know that.
Yeah. So they don't know what the button is. Um,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
just like happy it takes pictures. So now I need to learn more about it. This is great.
People, I think you have a very noble cause you're trying to do. This is take the care to the home. The system is extremely opposing to that kind of a system. We need to create a new kind of a system. You think to the how to the home care distribution be done more and more. People don't want to go to hospices. People want to die at home. People want to be getting old at home. People get, for example, you get sick. Somebody call you antibiotics for you on the phone and just get if somebody they can drop you off the antibiotics. All of them are should be immediate for the care system. What is missing, you think? What do you think you propose? Those kind of things, what do you think, as a professor, as a teacher, and as a AI implementer? Where do you see that first thing is a home care is I love that idea of home care. Tell me about that, how you can implement it through AI and the people, your vision that is about that.
I think part of it is, well, most of it, I will say, it's a people first issue. I think if people demand it, it will happen. The example is COVID. The probably the best thing to come out of COVID was the fact that telehealth was no longer something that was going to take away care. The only thing it did was actually increase access to care and has normalized people seeking behavioral health services and mental health services. In fact, there's such a need for it that those services are getting overwhelmed with it. And to the point of this whole conversation, not just AI but all technology, is that telehealth is not new. It's been there for years and decades, but it took a pandemic for us as a society and culture to realize that it's safe and effective when used in the appropriate manner with appropriate guardrails and governance. And that's what we need to do with all of these technologies. We now have an entire system built around telehealth services. Every organization I know is either building, has built, or continues to build and grow telehealth services. And that's going to become even more so the norm than it already has. I know it's the norm in behavioral health, but it'll become the norm in other areas as well. And so I think the answer is I don't want to build on a broken system. I think we need to just build a brand new system. And I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
telehealth really did do that. We built it's not that the technology wasn't there, it's that the infrastructure wasn't there. And we built that infrastructure in 2 years or less. So imagine what we can do if we do it with intentionality and building a new infrastructure.
I think you're the right person, Dipu, to write a book on the how to design a home healthcare system is a completely from the ground up. I think that is a require not only necessity for the world, and you're bringing the care to the directly to the home. I think people like you are the great ambassadors for this kind of a thing. Yeah, I'm convinced that this kind of a care has to be. You cannot build on the broken system. You have
Yeah.
to redesign the system from ground up, and
Yeah.
you're doing that. Stay, hang around on the podcast after finishing. But anything you want to say? Thank you so much. Is a total.
Thank
Anything you want
you.
to say before I close the deal, Nazim?
It was a pleasure to learn from both of you, and I look forward to ongoing dialogue in the future and learn more about you and and I want to learn about your book as well, dear Dr. Patel.
Yeah,
Thank you. It was a
Deepu,
pleasure. Thank you.
Dipu, stay on the line. But Dipu is a wonderful, it's a pleasure and honor. I keep coming back. I think he can shed us so much light on it. I have a very Patel, lots of Patel friends I have. One of the image first friend of mine is Swapna Patel. I want to say hello to her. She was the instrumental in in helping me to design some of those my thinking patterns. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Good night, all of you. Good night.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.